Hello and welcome back to Watchbox Studios. I'm Tim Mosso and this is Watches Tonight. This evening we take a tour of my favorite chronograph watches. We chat live and I share your viewer wrist shots tonight on Watches Tonight. Remember, the folks who pay for these pixels, thewatchbox.com, updating several times a day this time of year with holiday cheer. Check it out. It is the largest online gallery for pre-owned and vintage watches on the internet, and you will find your match. You can see we have a redesigned homepage. I can also see our live chat already streaming Decius, Edward Ledden, Nathan K, Joseph Zamora, Richard Combs from South Florida, Soma Ranki from Budapest, not Finland this time, Butik 1 from Poland, Arto Charles, who I believe is in New York City. We got Ron H from Sydney, Australia. We've got Brick Lane, James C from Milwaukee, Watchman Neo, James C saying finally caught the show live. And there is plenty to catch this week. Join me on Instagram, by the way. It is the official after party to this show. 1 minute reviews, and actually, we're also posting some of my best extended reviews now on the channel. Check out Tim_Mosso on Instagram. Oh, by the way, guys, Chopard has a strange holiday greeting for all of us. This arrived in my email just the other day and I can only scratch my head. I've never considered an infestation of beady-eyed rodents to be particularly romantic or seasonal, but maybe they feel differently in Fleurier. I can't say, but you guys let me know in the comments. Rodents, should they appear in any form, even cute, alongside luxury goods? I don't know. It's not rats, it's not mice, but they do look awfully beady-eyed, and rabbits and squirrels breed like, well, rabbits. I don't know, something about it just, you know what I mean? Give us puppies, Chopard. No one can argue with that. All right, we have Adrian Ward, Cull Obsidian, Justin D, JGC, Peter C, catching things live, Michael Bass, Dylan Lamb, and Hans N. Welcome all of you, Joe Pinto, this time from New Jersey instead of his usual Louisville. Okay, wrist shots number 1. I asked, you answered. Let's see what you got. Starting with Nishant P, who pretty much pegs the meter right out of the gate with his Lange und Söhne Zeitwerk date and his BMW M8 competition. Maybe we need just end the wrist shots there because I don't think we will revisit this peak. But Danny H of Thailand joins in at the same time from behind the wheel with his Vacheron Constantin Traditionnel Chronograph. Jens F and his Lange und Söhne Lange 1 time zone latest design inspects a psychedelic Bentley in Basel. We have Wakar A, who impresses with his Vacheron Constantin Historique 1942, triple calendar in stainless steel, love those lugs. And we've got Nat, who framed his cat, who actually looks exactly like Garfield if Garfield were a real cat. And a matching salmon gold dial with his Chapek Antarctique. I love it, guys. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your pieces on these pixels. And for that matter, send me your Instagram handle so I can tag you if I use your shot. All right, we got Peter Rye from Denmark. We've got Mark S joining in. We've got Abdul from Germany, BNS, Jacob O from Montana, and Watch Pillar saying strong first round. It's up and away from here, guys. It only gets better. Chronograph watches. You knew this was coming. If we don't count simple dates as complications, and I don't, then the chronograph is far and away the most popular complication among luxury watch collectors. Today we take a roll call of my favorite chronographs and explore why I love them. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to omit chronographs that include secondary complications greater than either a date or a power reserve indicator, because this saves other favorites of mine, like the IWC Grand Complication 3770 and the Patek Philippe Mono Pusher Split Second 5951 for another day. Those are incredible watches. Complicated chronographs will be their own show. So first we need to talk about Omega, but not the Omega chronograph that you're thinking of, because I know which Omega chronograph you're thinking of, and it's not that one. We're going to talk about the 2003 Omega Seamaster Apnea chronograph. This is my favorite Omega chrono, and you can see it right there on my wrist. It's a good match. Nominally part of the so-called Seamaster Diver 300 meter collection, or the James Bond series of submariners, or excuse me, Seamasters. Sorry Rolex and sorry Omega, that's mutual offense. But technically this is part of the Bond series, but it's about as different from any of the other Bond Seamasters as you can get. You need look no further than the design of the dial and the hands to realize that. So, Jacques Mayol, the record-setting French freediver and naturalist, and for that matter, dolphin enthusiast, was intimately involved in the designing of this watch. This is a guy who pushed the limits of what's possible as a human being. He repeatedly dove to over 300 feet with nothing but flippers. That is, he didn't let a rock or a weight carry him down. He dove down and then he came back up. I can't imagine that level of physical discipline, but he can, and he did it again and again and again into his 60s and 70s. So apnea is the state of suspended breathing. It is literally the holding of your breath. And Mayol would enter this state by using a trance or meditation to overcome with the mind the matter. So, what did this watch include? Well, the Seamaster Apnea was designed specifically for a freediver, which is why the hands themselves almost disappear on the dial. You can see the hours and the minutes, but they're subdued. They almost vanish against a dial that is all about its 7-minute timer. Now, on an ETA 2892 base, we have a Dubois de Praz module on top to create the Omega Caliber 3601. It's an automatic winding vertical clutch chrono, and each one of those apertures represents 1 minute elapsed. So they will turn from silver to red in 7 minutes, and then they will turn back from red to silver over the next 7 minutes. And this gives you all of the time during which a human being can physically remain submerged and then some. And it was designed with the notion that someday we may push our limits and extend all the way out to 14 minutes without taking in new oxygen. I don't want to be the one to probe those depths, so to speak, but the watch was set up in that regard. Now you can see that the dial is actually silver. If you look carefully, it's a satin, almost stainless steel brushed grain. It has applique indices, which were uncommon on Seamasters back at the time, and it's still 300 meters rated with unidirectional bezel. So if you want to use it as a traditional diver, it still works in that regard. But it is all about that 14-minute apnea chrono. It's 41.5 millimeters in steel. The case back, one of the few times that a Omega Seamaster was personally branded, not with another company or a movie franchise, but an individual. You could see the image of Mayol on the back with his name and the dolphin, a family of cetaceans with which he was very familiar. He built bonds with cetaceans in the wild and in aquariums, and in the later phases of his life he was actually involved in trying to probe some of the links between humans and marine mammals. So this is a loving tribute to an all-time great of extreme sports by Omega. The second version of the watch, there's actually a second version, this is my favorite. It features a satin black dial. It still has the apnea timer. This one's a little bit easier to read for land lubbers who want to know the actual hour and minute, and that is my favorite of the two. Omega also offered the watch with and without a bracelet, but as I always say, get it on the bracelet and buy the strap if you must. Just get the value up front, buy the bracelet, put it in the box, get the strap and wear it that way if you must. This is the one to buy in my opinion, because it seems that more examples of the silver dial were sold and the black dial is the rarity. But they're all fairly scarce, as the model was only sold by Omega starting in 2003, and after about 24 months, it had already lapsed in production, so this is an uncommon piece to find. Today, these models are highly regarded by collectors, but prices remain very reasonable, even for clean, full-set examples on the bracelet option. It is an awesome piece of marine memorabilia and very different from your everyday Bond Seamaster. This is the choice of an individualist, which incidentally, is exactly what Jacques Mayol was. All right, jumping into the box, we got Mark the Shark saying the shark in the box. I love it. We got Jacob O saying he has a friend who is a engineer of actually I think he says tribological, so I guess that has to do with the friction of material against material. And he has learned a ton about lubricants. And then we have XD saying the Schumacher Yellow Speedy is my favorite Omega chronograph. Remember, with the Schumachers, you had the three foundational models, which were Jordan Yellow, Benetton Blue, and Ferrari Red. There were a couple of other Schumachers later on, but those were the foundational models from 1996. We got Danny S. in the box, finally making a live cast, and Pete's Timepiece Safari, plus a Mick in Florida. All right, wrist shots number 2. Kevin D leads our line with his Grand Seiko SLJ009 and his Honda Civic SI track car. That is a man committed to high performance. Jimmy Y of Phoenix takes in a symphonic rendition of Disney tunes with his Rolex Green Sub, latest model. Abdul of Germany is back on campus with his Nomos Club Campus on red rubber. Bogdan P. of North Carolina captures his Zenith Dayfi Skyline with Oakley the dog. And Paolo M., a local friend from Philadelphia, frames the city with his Cartier Santos across the skyline. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your watch on this box. Let's see what else is going on. We got AJT joining in, getting up early in the Philippines, and Veilblitz saying, reading cautiously the bit about lubricants not knowing where it was leading to. That's all right. There's no 7-second delay, but fortunately I'm pretty quick at interacting with the box. And then Mark S. saying, Tim, how did last Tuesday go? It went well. It went well. And then we have Adolf in the box. Do we still name kids Adolf, by the way? I'm not sure. Let me know. And Joe Steve from Riverdale, New York, and a Monk 93 saying, hi, friends. Eric R. saying, Lang Unhain, greetings from Utah. I love that brand. They make the most beautifully finished watches in the world. Okay, so guys, stick with me tonight. Let's try to get to 400 concurrent viewers. Let's try to raise this thing to 400 people watching the show at one time. If you're watching, stay with me. If you're joining, it's going to get better. All right, so in general, I cannot deal with yellow gold watches. The oldest and boldest gold is a powerful thing. The material is appealing in principle, but overpowering in practice. Small sizes and vintage watches, as with this double-signed Vacheron 6099, that's how I prefer to take in my yellow gold timepieces. The combination of the two, smaller size and vintage, especially on a lovely Milanese bracelet, seems to be the ideal package for yellow gold watches, at least from where I stand. Naturally, I throw all of that out the window when the topic of the Patek Philippe 5070 series arises. And Sean, if we can go full screen with that, it is worthwhile to do so. Launched in 1998, as you see it here, and based on the historic 1950s reference 2512 Rattrapant, the 42mm 5070J is anything but small or bashful. For 1998, it was huge, a near Panerai-sized dress watch from Patek Philippe, and even at that size, in yellow gold, both at the same time. I love the 5070J. There's one on my wrist. My goodness, do we make a pair. In fact, I loved it enough to take stylized photos of it for memory's sake in my off hours at Watchbox. We had some Woodford and a 5070J with a particularly crisp bezel and lug combo. That's how you know the condition is good. This watch absolutely slays. All 5070s are legendary, but happily, my favorite is also the most affordable, and we'll talk about prices in a moment. But it's a beautifully flawed watch, if you've ever taken a close look at it, whose caliber is Lemania-based and far too small, if we're honest, for the 42mm Patek Philippe case. They spec'd a 42mm case and a 27mm chronograph, and that's easiest to see if we jump back to the dial. You can see the distance between the centers of the sub-registers on the dial that says everything you need to know about the size of the movement. And here's the thing, it's almost farcical, or at least it would be if the dial side weren't so deft. Take a look at that. Look at the double-stepped pagoda-like bezel and the multiple concentric tracks perfectly proportioned on the dial. It gets away with the ultimate disparity offense between movement and case. This is always the cardinal sin of watch design, and with Patek Philippe, it's like I laugh it off because the watch is so good. Look at that double-stepped bezel. Oh my gosh, those tracks, the tack. It's all good and gilt printed. Now, other 5070s exist in platinum, white gold, and rose gold. Special editions have been made in small numbers. All were deemed by market forces to be more valuable retroactively than the original 5070J in yellow gold. For example, and this is probably the cream of the crop, take a look at the 2015 London exhibition, special edition from the Saatchi Gallery. Patek had a big exhibition of contemporary and vintage watches at the Saatchi Gallery in London in 15, and it issued small batches of roughly 5 each of the defunct 5070 in different metals. And this face-melting hot 5070G-014, that came out in 5 pieces at the Saatchi Gallery only for the British market at the show, and that auctioned earlier this month for over $850,000 in Geneva. At Philips, I don't care. I want my 5070. That's the watch I want, right there, exactly like that, with the super crisp fluting at the edge of the lugs and a razor sharp bezel. Look at how the numerals glow on the black base of the dial. So good. Something about that watch reduces me nearly to tears. A sort of infantile desire, like the way a baby wants a bottle, or a child wants a puppy, or an adult wants a Ferrari. I get all of that. The whole span of covetous desire that a person can experience in their life. The way an old person desires youth. That's how I lust for the 5070J. I should also say this. The market is on my side. For less than 10% of what was paid for that salmon dial white gold 5070G, you can go out and you can buy my watch. $75,000 to $85,000. You will have your pick. There's many of them out there, and they are available in good condition for that price. My 5070 would be yellow gold, full set, unpolished, and razor sharp. Anyone shopping 5070s really needs to look at it almost like vintage car shopping, where you need to see a bunch of them before you commit, because you need to know what a good one looks like. Remember, you always start with the lugs and then work your way in when examining condition on these. But we can't talk about the 1998 to 2010 Patek 5070 without talking about its nemesis, the Lange Datograph. And we're going to talk about the Datograph. Let's jump into the box and see what's going on right here. We got Watch Pillar saying black dial makes a difference in this case. We've got Jean-Claude Beaver. We've got Thomas Burnett. We've got Mason 1 shouting out our other users. We've got Justin D. Tim, speaking of chronos, JLC Reverso Grand Sport Chrono or Blancpain Le Mans Chrono. Well, the Le Mans Chrono is going to be much more water resistant. So if you want to swim with it, that one. That said, the Grand Sport is so special with its double-sided double dial complication. It would have to be my choice. It's downright unusual even by 90s Reverso standards, and very good looking. And then right here we have Pete's Timepiece Safari saying, Tim, just ask Brian Goffberg for a good price and pull the trigger. But first we have to get that perfect 5070J. I will have my eyes out. Guys, stay with me. We're now past 240 concurrent viewers. I want to try to get to over 300, and then let's push it towards 400. We're talking about chronograph watches tonight, and I want to know from you, roll call. What are your favorite chronographs? Tell me in the chat box. We're going to pull it up, and I'm going to be sharing your selections with our global audience. Burning Mr. B. Tim, as a man of slight wrist, I'd like to know your thoughts on the Blancpain Air Command flyback 36 millimeters as a chrono. Yes. Yes. That's my answer. Yes. And then we had another question from Mark S. Tim, will you riff on SBF FTX, please? All I can say is if you'd put the same money into watches, you would be a lot happier and have a lot more residual value. See, even in a down market, watches can be a better investment, especially where crypto and NFTs are concerned. You know, I love the hardware on the wrist. There's something about physical assets during inflationary times and a down market. All right, Omid Sultan joining from Iran. Thank you so much for staying up super late with us in Iran. Edward Ledden saying, if I had the cash, 6102. And Brendan L saying, what's up, Tim, watching live. Brendan, thank you for joining us live. And Eugene K saying, much love and respect from Scarborough, Canada. J Bo Surf joining in from Australia. Good to see you right there. And O'Neill M from Chicago. Okay, Amit K, hi Tim, please review the Moritz Grossman Tremblage watch box has for sale. One of our employees may have bought that, so I will definitely review it. I don't know that it's still available. What else is going on in the box? We got Hans N 5170p in platinum with the diamond indices. That's his choice. Mojal saying Blancpain Villeray 1185 caliber at 34 millimeters. My pick for a slim wrist. We've got Soma R saying 5172G from Patek. Best proportions and details at Patek in my opinion, and loomed, which I love. We have Neo saying, well, he hasn't picked his watch yet, but hopefully soon. Nathan K saying AP 25860 black dial. And then we have Valblitz saying 1815 Lange Chrono, platinum black dial, and I'm not going to argue with that. That is one hell of a choice. Guys, keep them coming. Tell me, what is your favorite chronograph? Mark S. opined, Villeray can burn. Blancpain killed Le Mans series for those. There's a little bit of umbrage in there, I sense. Okay, so the Lange Datograph. Sean, pull it back up. We're going to talk specifically about the original 1999 Lange, which, launching at Basel that year, became one of the most influential modern-day mechanical watches and a staple of Lange's core lineup. They say the core three is the Lange 1, the Datograph, and the Zeitwerk, and this one launched itself into legend immediately. At 39 millimeters, the Lange was far smaller than the 42 millimeter Patek, but it packed a punch. This is reference 403035, and it really is the one that everyone thinks of, unless you're Waco, who loves the yellow gold, but this is the one that everyone thinks of when they think of the Datograph. So, platinum case, galvanized black, sterling silver dial. You had the double date, which was distantly JLC derived. Fun fact, it was their original patent. And that is the panorama datum that is a signature of the Datograph. And Lange surprised by including full loom. If you look right there, you can actually see the four corners and the hands on this watch are luminescent. Moreover, it is a standard flyback chronograph with the action that gives you an extra degree of functionality, highlighting the benefit of Lange's clean slate manufacture movement design, into which extra functions could be incorporated, compared to Patek's use of an existing La Magne abouche, which rather hamstrung their ability to elaborate without adding thickness or size. The movement architecture on the Lange was magnificent. All major systems, from the clutch to the column wheel, to the escapement, the balance, and the overcoil hairspring are beautifully blazoned and visible from the reverse side. We have steel, we have rubies, we have German silver, all of it with a panoply of colors and textures and tones and finishes. None of it compromised in any way. Finish was world class, having been designed from the first for a display caseback. And don't take that for granted. Ironically, Lange's earliest watches in the early to mid-90s included solid casebacks in service to traditional notions of modesty and conservative marketing in the watch industry. The Datograph forced leading Swiss watchmakers like Patek, AP, Vacheron, and even independents to immediately reconsider the standard of finishing and their dependence on third-party abouche movements. In many regards, the Lange Datograph did to Patek what the Honda NSX did to Ferrari. It removed all excuses for falling short of excellence in a luxury performance segment. Okay, what else is going on here? Matt Foster saying, my favorite is the Lange und Söhne Chronograph, MB&F Chrono, De Bethune Maxi Chrono, and Moser Streamliner Chrono, to name a few. Danny Rubin saying, A Bell 1911, especially El Primero powered, is a sleeper, and I gotta agree with that. A Mick in Florida also showing love for the Bell 1911 El Primero. We got an old Miami Vice fan right there. We got Edward Ledden saying the original IWC 3705 and Brick Lane. I love the 39mm Datograph. Keep your favorites coming, guys. I'm gonna read as many as I can. Dave Opencar, Gray Side of the Moon, Caliber YQG, love any Datograph, and Jean-Claude Beaver, Chapek Faubourg de Cracovie, with the Vacheron high beat bass, a very cool choice. And then we got the Easy Rail. Tim, Platinum Datograph or Duphorograph? Platinum Datograph. I like white metals. What else is going on? Abdul R. Watches, Grunefeld Chronograph for the win. And then Brick Lane asking, when will Seiko make a Datograph alternative? I'm not sure, but it almost has to be made by the Micro Artist Studio if we are to take it seriously as a Datograph alternative. Justin D saying, I love the IWC Aquatimer Split Minute in Titanium. Also love the Roger Dubuis Easy Diver Chrono, big but quality. Also a great buy pre-owned. Okay, wrist shots, number 3. I asked you answers starting with Martin T. Combines his Tissot PRX and fine malt beverage post-Thanksgiving. That is a way to unwind after the holidays. Matthew C. joins us from Fiji with our second Zenith Day-Fi Skyline sighting. By the way, he's from Brisbane, Australia, when he's not in Fiji. We got Ollie, who sent a bunch of fantastic laboratory photos, but I loved this classic Z-Blue wrist shot the most. Robert D., a longtime follower of the show, shares a classic wrist shot of his Rolex Explorer, and Robert H. appetizes with his 65th birthday cake in chocolate and an Ordain Plum Fumé Smoked 1 dial. Looking good, guys. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Where are we now? Okay, we're building toward 300 viewers. Stay with me. Many more chronos to come. The really exotic stuff is starting to come now. I want to keep hearing your favorite chronographs in the box because I'm going to be reading those out. Watch Pillar, Blancpain 50 Fathoms Bathyscaphe Chronograph, COS 911, 50 Fathoms Air Command. And James C., can we get some love for the Rolex Yachtmaster 2? Yes, we can, especially in white gold. That is probably my all-time favorite Rolex chrono. And by the way, Mr. French Fries Monster likes the Gerard Perregaux Richeville 2710. Very cool. That's an inside baseball reference. Here's the thing. You know that I have to mention a certain chronograph from Rolex, but I'm not going to make it the conventional choice. Before we do that, acknowledging the niche selections that I've waxed eloquent about in the past, I don't want to repeat Lange und Heine, because you're sick of hearing about the Lange und Heine Albert. A beautiful watch, super customizable, possibly the most beautiful chrono ever made, but again, I've sung its praises before, and by the way, it is the best, this one, which is the best finished chronograph in the world, really needs to be at the top of your shopping list if you want no compromise finish. Everything from the multiply solarized ratchet wheel to the mirrored bevels to the use of a diamond capstone atop the balance. And by the way, if you want, you can even get it made in mammoth tusk ivory. It's freehand engraved all over the place. We have interior angles, exterior angles, and the steel is finished to the same standard as the base plates and bridges. Guys, that's all I'm going to say about the Albert. It is superlative. I'll move on, but definitely Google it if it doesn't ring a bell. And I've said enough about my late, great JLC Duomet. You guys know all about the Duomet chronograph, so I won't duplicate those pains here or regale you with duplicative gushing about its otherworldly dual wing movement, which is a JLC built a lot like a Lange. Suffice to say, it's the only watch on this list that I've loved enough to buy so far, and you can research it at your leisure elsewhere on my social media. Okay, back to Rolex. I will remind you for the nth time how much I love the color green, and we have to talk about a green Rolex here. It is the Rolex Daytona Beach with chrysoprase dial in a class by itself, at least from where I stand. Officially, this is reference 116519 in white gold, and it was a part of a quartet of colorful white gold, that's the pink one, colorful white gold Daytona Beach models. And that right there, I believe, is going to be the blue one that you're going to see next. Launched in 2000 to celebrate the then new in-house caliber 4130. The green dial model was the one for me. And from what I understand, it is also the market's choice, as its green dial, which was cool at the time, is now, figuratively at least, red hot in today's market. So, what is chrysoprase or chrysophrase, depending on how you want to spell or pronounce it? Well, it is a cryptocrystalline dial that is the only kind of crypto I can support these days. And it's the nickel content that gives it that green hue. It's the inclusion, too, if we go back, of a rare Rolex lizard leather strap that makes this one a double green kick. Now, here's the thing. That's probably the way I would wear it, but extraordinary examples on a bracelet, which have the reference 116509, do exist. And I guess if you want the full Monty of the white gold Rolex experience, you're going to look for those scarce examples. But how does it look at its best? It looks at its best on the lizard strap. By the way, how often do you see lizard leather on a Rolex, especially factory equipped? The silica dial, to me, looks best alongside that matching lizard. Which lizard? Who knows? We may never know. But that lizard died a hero. All right, viewer wrist shots number 4. I asked, you answered. Jeff B. and more Rolex, his blue Rolex Datejust 41 combined with color coordinated denim in this wrist shot right here. Omer S. and his JLC Reverso Tribute Small Second Green capture the fall pulchritude of Lake Zurich in Switzerland. Brent C. of Detroit is in Glacier National Park with his Rolex Datejust, and I think that photo takes the Pure Photography Award of the night. We have Eric N., who shares his vintage Moonwatch and Genesis Auto. I'll see you at the Amelia Island Concours this year, Eric. Apparently he's already booked his trip. I will be booking mine soon. And Brian F. and his Tudor Pelagos are in Venice's San Marco Square. Looking good, guys. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com. Okay. I had LJR and his, quote, unpopular choice of favorite. Let me read. So this is his favorite chrono. LJR35 saying, my Speedmaster triple date with blue dial, much less common than the Moonwatch variants, but my favorite is probably the rose gold Universal Genève Tri-Compacts, just gorgeous. What else is going on in the box? We have Danny Rubin saying that dial is sick, and we have over 300 folks now watching. Guys, let's try to hit 400 before we're done. Very cool watches coming soon. Richard Combs saying his favorite chronograph is the Rolex Platona 116506 with diamond baguette markers. One of the most stunning chronographs in my opinion, and in my opinion as well. That and the Eastern Arabic numerals, I'm not sure. I'd have to fight back and forth. If I had to choose between those two, they both have their allures. And Mark S. Tim, will you move to New York City with Watchbox opening up there? No, but I will be visiting on a regular basis, and I'll be sure to let you guys know on the channel when that's happening. Mojal saying, would rather have the Meteorite Daytona. Rolex is using their stock of Meteorite and there won't be any more with the ban on exports from Namibia. We also have Galen M. saying, my favorite would be the JLC Extreme Lab 2 with a digital chronograph. I can't argue. And then right here, we've also got Mark S. Tim, why can't you move to New York? Because I've got to be where the watches are, and the inventory is here in Philadelphia. All right, jumping back to our regularly scheduled program. GPHG awards are a big deal historically. At the Oscars of watchmaking, even nominations are considered to be honors worthy of dedicated marketing campaigns by brands. But not every GPHG award is the equivalent of Best Picture, Best Actor, or Best Director. Be honest, do you wait with bated breath for the results of the jewelry category? I didn't think so. But chronographs, that is a main event. And every year, it is a monster's ball of great candidates. That's why the 2014 Chronograph category win for De Bethune was a big freaking deal. Keep in mind, the 2014 was year 12 for De Bethune, and the DB29 Maxi Chrono Tourbillon isn't the kind of watch that most brands build in their first dozen years. At 46 millimeters in rose gold, this seems at first like an unwearable Grubel-style megalith for your wrist. But virtually lugless case, and it has a lugless case, wears totally round. Like my old 43mm 70s JLC Snowdrop Memovox, you jump back and forth between those, you could see it's exactly the same idea. A strap under the watch, effectively no lugs, the diameter is the same as the lug to lug. And The de Bethune is thin too. At 11.7 millimeters, it's actually half a millimeter thinner than a Daytona. So don't be intimidated by the fit of this $300,000 mono pusher. As for the price, yes, definitely be intimidated by that. But understand you're getting your money's worth, and I'll tell you why. By the way, guys, stick with me. We're now at 310 and on our way up. This is the one. You're going to want to hear all about this de Bethune. The center dial includes both clock time and chronograph time on 5 coaxial hands. Now think about this. The chronograph has a radial 60-second display, a radial 60-minute display, and a radial 24-hour chronograph display. This is what de Bethune means when they use the term maxi chrono. This is the maxi chrono system of telling time, and it grants pride of place to the chronograph functions at center. Under the Hunter caseback, on the back you get both a solid gold caseback and a display caseback, is manufacturer caliber DB2039, a manual wind movement. This thing is stacked like Superman. 410 hand-finished parts, a 5-day power reserve, and that in spite of a 36,000 vibration per hour escapement and a tourbillon that makes 30-second double-speed circuits. Everything on the bridge structure has been black polished, and you can see the primary bridge is not just black polished, but also internally beveled and skeletonized. And a clutch system includes 3 separate column wheels. The absolute clutch for the seconds has no play in it, like a vertical clutch. Then the minutes has an oscillating pinion, which has minimal play that doesn't show up on a minutes hand. And then finally you have a traditional lateral clutch for the hours. This is optimal for precision of actuation. It is also optimal for minimizing the friction, and it is Denis Flageolet's unique innovation in the chronograph space. Now, the DB29 was discussed as a 20-piece limited edition back in 2014, but anything is possible at de Bethune, where bespoke requests and one-offs are always considered. All right, jumping into the box. Mr. No Date, Tim, can you please teach Mike and Brian how to correctly pronounce de Bethune? I will. I can't force them to actually do it, though. That's the problem right there. All right, we are up to 318. Let's keep that going. Davey85 saying, I just don't like the design language of any DB watches. Remember to check out their whole span of production. Their styles have changed many times across many collections since 2002. I find people can almost always find something amid that selection that they will like. Danny Rubin saying, purchased a Haven Watch Co. Chilluminati. Size is perfect, finishing is adequate. Scratches the itch of a vintage size chrono until my 321 is ready in 2055. And then Vel Blitz saying, I only like the simpler de Bethune watches like the DB25 or presumably the DB1 series. Amit B saying, Tim, thinking of grabbing the regular JLC Polaris date. Thoughts? Wouldn't be my choice. I'm not a huge fan of the Polaris collection. I feel like it's reflected glory, but that's generally how I feel about vintage style watches. I'd say if you want a vintage recreation watch, the best one is still going to be the Longines Legend Diver. Get the one with the date and I think you're good to go, and you'll spend a lot less than you would on the JLC. Vacheron Constantin. Did you forget about the Harmony collection from 2015? I know, it's easy to do, but I hope you haven't, because there was at least one standout, and that was the mono pusher chronograph. Designed in homage to a 1928 cushion case chrono from VC's past, the mono pusher combined a vintage look with a contemporary 42mm rose gold cushion case. The mono pusher, limited edition of 260, commemorated exactly that many years of the company, which is the world's oldest, never defunct, never broken down, never discontinued, and continuously operating watch brand. There has always been a heartbeat and a tick-tock at Vacheron Constantin. Now, a pulsometric scale adds offbeat charm, and a fitting tachymeter alternative for a dress watch. Caliber 3300 is really why you buy this watch. It was created expressly for the occasion, so it fits this large watch, and it moved Vacheron beyond its previous reliance on Le Mania Abauche. The Caliber 3300 also includes a small dial-side power reserve, 65-hour power reserve, lateral clutch, column wheel, Geneva hallmark, and a fleur-de-lis hand-engraved motif on the balance cock. It has an overcoil hairspring and it is free sprung. It has everything you could want. Look inside the chronograph clutch. You see the Maltese cross. Look at the cap of the column wheel. The Maltese cross again. No detail has been overlooked. The movement finish is glorious in spec. Not everyone can wear this sizable machine, but it's worth the effort for people who do have large wrists, and it's pleasingly outside the mainstream despite hailing from a Holy Trinity brand. Retail was about $85,000, and you will pay tens of thousands less to own that watch today. Guys, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. We wound up with a great live audience. Sean, as ever, did a great job on the switcher. Thank you for making the best job in the world possible. Until next time, time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.